Hey YouTube, it's Eric. This video is probably going to go for about 30 minutes or so. I was just doing some follow-up research to the last video I did on the Roman Military Fasces. And I was browsing through the websites alami.com and gettyimages.com. These websites, have crazily expensive stock photos for sale, but they archive a lot of good photos on the internet, but they're all strictly copyrighted, and you charge you like literally hundreds of dollars to get these photos. But I typed in fascies on the search bar for alami.com and Getty Images, and I found all sorts of interesting images. Like lots of images, that go back to the ancient days. You see here in ancient Rome, here are the lictors. The lictors are basically the inquisitors of ancient Rome. See here in ancient Rome, the lictors were public officers and bodyguards to the chief Roman magistrates. They carried rods decorated with fasces and inflicted punishment. I repeat, so I'm going to start from here. So the lictors, they carried rods decorated with fasces and inflicted punishment on those sentenced by the magistrate, and commanded everyone to pay proper respect to their masters. I repeat, the lictors who carried the Roman fasces commanded everyone to pay proper respect to their masters as they went through the city. And this is from the book Hutchinson's History of Nations, published in 1915. Okay, you see the fasces, it's an ancient military symbol of the Roman Empire. And there's lots of photos on alami.com and Getty Images that show that. So here's another one here. In the ancient world, Roman Empire, lictors are carrying the rod with the bundle, the fasces, after military victory. This is the triumphal column of Marcus Aurelius. Actually, the current that's in the article on the National Catholic Register. I have that on my Jesuit World Order blog called Trump's Catholic Warriors. It's Roman Catholic James Mattis, the current, Secretary of War. He's a devout Catholic. He says he actually carries the meditations of Marcus Aurelius with him into battle. So that's to tell you something. But so I'm just going to go into some of the ones that I found, some additional ones, and these are hidden in plain sight. There's lots of revealing ones here. This one's interesting here. This is a French propaganda magazine cover for World War One, which is interesting. And actually, I found a few interesting World War One pictures here. You see this the lady sitting on the ground here, the marionette, or Marianne, the lady here. This is the issue from the marionette. This lady Marianne, representing France, is pushing a fat smoking German off her lap. You see her with the Roman fasces is right here behind France. That's telling you the Roman fasci, French military, is controlled by the Vatican, and actually their highest military official during World War One, Marshal Ferdinand Foch, had an older brother that was a Jesuit priest. Foch was Jesuit educated himself, and actually mentioned that the Jesuits made his career a success while he accepted a sword of Ignatius of Loyola at Jesuit Georgetown University. And I'll show you that just quickly now that I mentioned it. I'll show you the source. This came from like a Catholic, National Catholic Welfare Conference source from 1921 when Foch was knighted. Let me see. That's why there's the fasces on the Marianne girl representing France pushing the German soldier off her lap. And Germany, like the Kaiser in his memoirs, the Kaiser Wilhelm II on page 211 says that Pope Benedict XV told him that Germany was to be the sword of the Catholic Church. And then the Kaiser mentioned that are you trying to resurrect like the age of Charlemagne? And he said the Pope didn't waver after after the Kaiser brought that up. Where was this here? Give me a second. Okay, so here's the quote here. There's the source for. I put this on. I put this whole. You can get the PDF. I put this whole Catholic News Service story on my archive.org page. You can see here Marshal Ferdinand Foch. He was the leader of he was the supreme Allied commander during World War One, but he's a French general. See here, but he's actually getting a sword of Loyola. See, the headline is General receives sword at Georgetown in person covenant. See, in general, the Marshal Ferdinand Foch said, any success I may have attained in life I owe to the Jesuit fathers at St. Clement College, Metz, and the principle they taught me, God and country. That's cute. You see here, look, the sword was presented to Ferdinand Folk by the Very Reverend Joseph H. Rockwell, S.J., Provincial of the Maryland, New York Province of the Jesuit Order. Actually, David I. Ignatius Walsh was here, the Jesuit who was close with many Nazis. And John Roy Carlson's book Undercover, he quotes the Nazi white supremacist Oleg Tetsuo. He was known as the Nazis' roving ambassador. But Oleg Tetsuo had a personal friendship with David Walsh, and David Walsh got the Nazi Oleg Tetsuo out of some tax fraud scandals. And David Walsh, John Roy Carlson mentions this, and J.J. Murphy, Clerical Fascism, his pamphlet Clerical Fascism in the United States, and Charles Hyham's book, Trading with the Enemy. All that's on my archive.org page. All mention the scandal David I. Walsh was in the 40s with a Nazi spy ring in New York City. And Walsh had no interest in defending the charges, and as a lay Jesuit, he went off scotch-free, and David Walsh was untouchable. As you can imagine, he was here when Marshal Ferdinand Folk was being knighted. That's in this article. Folk also went to Boston College on the same trip, and he spoke about his desire to go to Boston College in this article. Let me see here. Okay, so but I'll link this in the description of this video. I'll leave that up. Okay, you can see, but that's why the Marianne representing France here, the French military, has the Roman fasci right under her chair, pushing off the fat German soldier. It's a pretty funny propaganda photo, but if you know the significance behind the geopolitical narrative at the time, though, this fasces is, you know why it's there. Okay, but then actually going back to French here, so this is the Pierre Laval order. There's a great article on, I think Johnny Cerrucci put this on his archive.org page too, but I got an article that was written by J.J. Murphy titled from the Converted Catholic magazine called Clerical Fascism in France. Lots of information there on Pierre Laval. Also, Aber Manhattan has a whole chapter on the fall of France and during World War II. And Pierre Laval, the Order of Pius IX, and Knight of Malta, was a devout Catholic Roman fascist. Pierre Laval actually, the New York Times, J.J. Murphy quotes this, but Pierre Laval said that his harsh treatment against the Jews was with only following the spirit of the history of the Roman Catholic Church's treatment against Jews. I'm paraphrasing that, but that's in the pamphlet Clerical Fascism, the Clerical Fascist Betrayal of France by J.J. Murphy. But look at this. So this is the this is the pin for the Pierre Laval. So this is an official signet for senators in the period of the Three Republica made by Vauban and Paris, or the Third French Republic. That's what that's referring to there. Yeah, I get that now. Okay, you see here the name Pierre Laval engraved on the black, as well as the stamped bronze. You look at this. He gave me 2 Roman fasci right there, and the Roman wreath. So that tells you, like, Pierre Laval, who he was serving, while he was in office, very clearly. Interestingly, the Count Ciano, I found a copy of this guy's memoirs in a used bookshop for like $8. But I found they're on archive.org. I haven't put it on my archive.org yet, but I recommend you check out his memoirs. The Nazis actually, I think, executed him for that reason, because he exposed a decent amount of stuff in the memoirs. But Count Ciano is a devout Catholic. He was Mussolini's nephew, I believe. He was the ambassador from the fascist Italians to the Vatican. And you see here his party badge for the Party Nazionale Fascista has the Roman fasci right there. So there's all sorts of interesting ones. Here's from World War I in Germany, a politics and labor movement, portraits of William Liebknecht and August Bebel, motto Liberty, Equality, and Brotherness. Postcarded on the 1st of May, Germany, 1910. You see here the Roman fasci right in the center, where my mouse is. These guys, I've been looking at these guys more. William Liebknecht and August Bebel. They're probably Roman agents, with this fasci being there. Here's a Signs of the Times photo from World War II. This was a funny photo here. I think this was British satire, but it's a true, but comedic photo at the same time. See the Nazi fasci is the fasci is ingrained right into the Nazi swastika. which was the accurate, depiction of what was actually going on during the whole mess. This is from Herbert Schweitzer, he died in 1980. Yeah, that's a powerful photo, right there. That was on Alami. Actually, there's speaking on satire. This one was funny, but another good example of a photo that speaks, a satire photo that speaks a million words. You see, this is President Theodore Roosevelt in the United States. I don't know when this photo was drawn. You see here, he's in a chair that says presidency with the Roman eagle above. But look what's at the side of the chair that says presidency. Roman fasci. See, and, and actually, the photo is titled "Going Back to the Good Old Days," or it says here, "The Good Old Days." President Roosevelt sitting in a chair of presidency with the fascies. And actually, you see Theodore Roosevelt, like his older cousin James Roosevelt Bailey was a Catholic priest in Newark. And actually, I'll show you a photo of Johnny sent me a photo of Cardinal Gibbons with Theodore Roosevelt, President Roosevelt. You see this photo symbolizing, though, that every U.S. president is a puppet of the Vatican. You see the military fasces in the presidency seat. Okay, but here's a photo of Cardinal James Gibbons and President Teddy Roosevelt. See, so that satire photo, does have much truth to it. I guess that's an understatement. It's a picture that speaks a million words. You see Theodore Roosevelt in real life laughing up with Cardinal John Gibbons. See in the satire photo where the fasces is present, he's sitting in the presidency seat, showing that he's a puppet of Rome. I think that's what the artist was going for there. This was in Austria here. This was at, you see a decoration with Bruckner, Metope, Trilipsis, and fasces. This was at Schroben Palace in Austria, in Vienna. Schronborn Palace. See this place here? Staterooms. Was the main summer residence of the Habsburg rulers. Well, that makes sense. Jeez, would you look at that? Hey, these guys are living in a completely different stratosphere. Look at this. Just look at this and then go look up videos of Camden, New Jersey, and you'll see the difference. Yeah, so this is where the Roman fasci is present. Yeah, not too shabby for the Habsburgs. This is where they're living. Schronbrunn Palace. Yeah, but here is the fasces here. Oh, yeah. This is in the palace gardens, and you see it underneath my mouse is right here. It makes sense that this fasces is at a Habsburg palace. There was a Marie Habsburg actually on the Jeffrey Epstein Black Book list. Johnny mentioned that on the show we did on the 8th. But if you go to the H section of the Black Book, you'll see Marie Habsburg. Here's a statue here in France of the Danton movement. This is another French Revolution tribute statue. I'll show you a few connections to the French Revolution. So here's the Danton Monument. Oh, I thought I had a tab open. Give me a second here. And actually, I mentioned on the first video, the mace of the United States House of Representatives has the Roman fasces on it. And actually, I found from the official government source, they admit that the mace is modeled off of the fasci. Where was that here? Yeah, so this is from historyhouse.gov. Yeah, I'll read to this and then I'll click on it. See, wherever and whenever the U.S. House of Representatives meets, this historic artifact, that being the mace of the House, is there. It is the mace. The mace is made up of 3 parts: a bundled shaft of 13 rods, a silver globe, and an eagle with spread wings. This is from the U.S. government source here. The bundle of rods of the mace resembles fasces. Fasces used in the ancient Roman Republic symbolize strength through unity. They're admitting that on their own website, that the mace of the House of Representatives is based off the Roman fasci. And there it is right there. There's a zoom in of it. Literally coming from their own website that it's, I'm not making that up. See, it's right there. Okay, but going through, I want to find the Danton Monument. Give me a second. Roman fasces is present here. Statue de Danton. Trying to go to Wikipedia, translate from French to English. See, it is a structural bronze group made by Auguste Paris in 1891. The monument depicts the deputy of the convention and the revolutionary Georges Jacques Danton in the process of haranguing the people. Haranguing the people, interesting choice of words. The statue was commissioned by the city of Paris in 1887 for commemorations of the centenary of the French Revolution. So this is a centenary of the French Revolution statue. You know, proof that the French Revolution was a Roman creation. That's why they put the Roman fasces on the centenary statue. You know, just like the U.S. Congress is controlled by the Vatican and the Jesuits. And in part one, I showed the centennial coin for the U.S. Congress that was issued, has a Roman fasces right on the center of it. There's also the American dime that was issued in like 1916 that has a Roman fasces on it. Okay, so here's a Roman. This is this monument to Georges Jacques Danton. Comes from the French Revolution. And you can see the fasces are all over the statue. They're on. There's 8 of them, fasces on each side of the square. This one was really interesting here. This is from President Grover Cleveland's campaign ad from 1988. You see your tariff reform. Look what the eagle's carrying here. 2 Roman fasces bundle sticks. Are you kidding me? That's so in your face. As you know, Grover Cleveland was a regular attendee at Georgetown University. He spoke at their commencement speeches. That's in the book, The History of Composing Georgetown College. That's on my archive.org page. Yeah, look at that. And his vice presidential candidate, Thurman. You know, his first guy, what's this guy's first name? Alan G. Thurman. Alan G. Thurman and Grover Cleveland. Look at that. Look at that. That's so like in the open. Tariff reform. Probably tariff. We're going to give the Roman Catholic Church tax exempt status. That's probably what their tariff reform is. Let's get taxpayer dollars to fund the Catholic Church's nefarious activities. That's probably what their tariff reform is. But look, the Roman fasces are right there on the campaign ad. This is from 1888. You can see right there. Look, the fasci sticks right here. And these, I'm going to go into the Getty images. Right now I'm going through the ones I'm compiled from the alami.com list. Here's a Mussolini's Fascist Italy. See, here looks like a plaque right here. You see right in the center, Roman fasci. Yeah, I found quite a few from the Italy era, fascist era. Here's a statue of an angel with the fascist fasces on her left by Italian sculptor Antonio Marini on the building of the Istituto Nazionale di Previdenza Sociale in Milan. See right there? Fasces is right there on the statue. Here's another one, fascist in Tuscany, Italy. A fascist-era monument surmounted the Italian flag and the fasces, the ancient Roman symbol of power. You can see the fasces on the left. So it should be concerning to Americans that the fasces in the United States is just as prevalent as it was in a full-on dictatorship, that being of Mussolini, where there was firing squads. You know, people were being rounded up and sent into camps, suspension of habeas corpus, martial law. You know that, so it should be concerning, I think, to Americans that I'd say the fasces in the U.S. is just as prevalent as it was in Mussolini's Italy. You know, which says something. This one was crazy here. This is in Washington, D.C. This just, I think, shows the papal culpability in World War I. Look at this, the Great War for Civilization. This is at the Washington, D.C. District of Columbia Memorial to the World War I dead. They had the audacity to put a Roman military fasci right on this. Like, look at that, right on the plaque. This is supposed to be a memorial to those who died in World War I. That's saying World War I's an inquisition to further the temporal power of the Pope. That's what that says. Sacrificed, millions of Protestants all over the world. You centralized power in the League of Nations. That was a big part of which led to the United Nations. It was like, look at this. This is You could spend a whole show going into the geopolitical, narrative of World War One. It's unbelievable though, right in your face. Like I'm just gonna leave this up. The Great War for Civilization. They had the audacity to put the fasces right in the center. This is in Washington D.C. I'm not sure where in D.C. this is, but this is in the District of Columbia. Like that's really just telling you that the World War One was to, just to further the temporal power of the Pope. The Pope, they read Aber Manhattan's book Terror Over Yugoslavia. He dedicates a whole chapter to how the papacy was getting behind the Austro-Hungarian Empire during World War One in a crusade against the Slavs. For instance. Look, this is right in your face. I already mentioned earlier on the show the connections to Ferdinand Foch, the head of the French general during World War One, his connection to the Jesuits, and the Kaiser in his memoirs on the German side during World War One said that the Pope told him he wanted Germany to be the sword of the Catholic Church. So this one's very significant here at the fasces on the World War One dead memorial, the tribute to those who died in World War One in D.C. with the fasci right on the center. Here's another one from fascist Italy in the Milan Central train station. Mussolini built this train station in I don't know what specific year he built it, but this was funded by the fascist party. You see it right there. There's the Roman fasces. Here's another one from the French Revolution. This guy is I don't know who the speaker is, but here's a speaker speaking at a podium, growling up the people, gaslighting them. And look at this, Roman fasces right here. Right up the podium. It's an inverted one, but that's right there where my mouse is. And speaking of the French, this is a letter I have that was written by Joseph Ignatius Guillotine. Joseph Ignatius Guillotine. He was actually educated by the Jesuits and was a high-level Freemason. But Guillotine invented the guillotine killing machine. It's famous for the sharp blade that comes down and instantly slices off the head of the victim. So this is a letter that Guillotine wrote here. This is from a journal, an academic journal, on Joseph Guillotine that I linked in this Reddit post that I did on Guillotine on the Rome Rules subreddit a while back. It's here. This is a letter Guillotine sent, and look what's on the center of the letter heading from Joseph Guillotine, proving that he's an inquisitor. Look at it. That's a Roman Military Fasces, which I'm circling. See? It's in this article. It mentions how Guillotine was brought up by the Jesuits. You see, his early years were spent among the Jesuits, and he taught for some years at the Irish College of Bordeaux. So Guillotine taught at the Jesuit college, in spite of the efforts made by the Jesuits, attracted, according to Dr. Achille Chero, by his name of Ignatius. So I bet they were attracted to that. His inclinations led him to take up the profession of medicine, and became a doctor of medicine at the College of Reims, January 7th, 1768. And in this journal article, Guillotine brags about the effectiveness of his new killing machine. You see here he's serving Rome with his new killing machine. How fitting that a Jesuit-educated individual created like a machine that systematically, effectively kills people, efficiently kills people. How fitting. But here is the quote here. Guillotine said, "My machine acts like lightning." Let me read this quote. "My machine acts like lightning. The head flies, the blood gushes out, the man is no longer there." From his own words. And you see the Roman fasci. And the title of this, he's educated by the Jesuits. This is the source for this here. You can read on the screen. And Guillotine, the source for this is this comes from the section of the History of Medicine, November 18th, by Dr. Norman Moore, president of the section and chair. Or this article is by MacLeod Yearsley. This is the Dr. Moore, I guess, was the author of this journal, medicine journal. But this in particular article on guillotine was written by MacLeod Yearsley, and you can find this right here in this article. Okay. This video is probably going to go a little over 30 minutes, but this is important information. Here's a fascist-era Italian postage stamp from 1923. You can see the Roman fasci hidden in plain sight right here. So now this is going into the Getty Images block that I found, and I linked the two the pages where I searched in fasces to the search bar on Alamy and Getty. I linked into the description. Lots of other ancient, like Roman Empire photos of the fasces in use in these batches of photos that are worth looking at. Here's a lictor carrying a fasces on horseback from the Roman Empire. Or back in the Roman Empire. This loads. There he is right there, holding the Roman fascia. A crusader. A crusader for the Pope, holding the fascia. Okay, but I'm just going to go into some of them here. This was from the Spanish Civil War with Franco in 1938. One of the very first things Franco did was admit the Jesuits back into Spain. Not so much of a puppet he was. But you see here Franco on the Spanish Civil War nationalist pro-Franco propaganda posters. You see the lion holding the fasces right here at the bottom. You see where my mouse is? And the Spana you see here is from 1938, pro-Franco, pro-Hitler propaganda. And here are some here are some banknotes in Italy. So at this time, in 1939, you had the 1 lira Italian state note. You have the fasci on the right side, right here, where my mouse is. And you had the 2 lira state note also had the fasci. I believe they just switched sides on where the fasci was. I think the fasci is on the left side on the 2 lira. Yeah, right here. There's 2 lira in Italy, Roman fasci on the left. This was from a church in Florence, but you see, like, there's all sorts of interesting images like this on this Getty badge. This is Cicero, Decius, and Scipio. Cicero has the fasces on him right here, and actually that makes sense because the Jesuits love Cicero. He's one of the Jesuits' favorite philosophers. He was a big advocate of like there being an aristocratic class that controls the minds of the masses, the useless eater masses. Or maybe I don't know. Maybe that's a little harsh on Cicero. I guess he was very bent on order. That's why the Jesuits liked him so much. You hear Decius, Cicero, and Cicero. See here, fasci right behind Cicero. Okay, and this is in Florence. This image in a church. This one's crazy here. This is Queen Elizabeth's coronation. Look at this. So this is from 1953. So the preparation for the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II, Her Majesty's stagecoach. See, this is Queen Elizabeth's stagecoach. 4 large tritons supported the body of the coach by means of braces, which are covered with Morocco leather and ornamented with gilt buckles. The figures at the back carry the imperial fasces. You see right here. Right? And like, are you kidding me? This is a supposed Protestant Queen Elizabeth. I'm going to show you that the British Empire actually lost its sovereignty to the Pope in 1213. I'll show you the source for that. You see here, the figures at the back carry the imperial fasces, the Roman imperial fasces topped with tridents. Are you kidding me? And there are the tridents right there. Above the walking groom is seen the upper back panel bearing the royal arms, quote, beautifully ornamented with the Order of St. George, the rose, the shamrock, and the thistle. Okay, but look at that. Queen Elizabeth II's coronation, Roman military fasces on. This is the Protestant queen is using these Roman military fasces on her stagecoach for her coronation. That probably has something to do with the fact that the former Grand Master of the Knights of Malta, Andrew Bertie, passed away in 2008, was related to Queen Elizabeth. Would you look at that? He was the 5th cousin of Queen Elizabeth, the former Grand Master of the Knights of Malta, Andrew Bertie. I'm pretty sure he was the first Englishman to be Grand Master of the Knights of Malta. He's related to Elizabeth, and Elizabeth uses 2 Roman fasces on her stagecoach for her coronation. Are you kidding me? There's also photos of this Andrew Bertie with Fidel Castro, the lay Jesuit. Castro may have been a full-on Jesuit. He spent 3 years, went to 3 different Jesuit schools. Reinhard Gehlen even admits that the only reason the U.S. allowed Castro to come into power was because he was educated by the Jesuits. That's in Gehlen's book, The Service, page 237. Yeah, look, Andrew Bertie, the cousin of Queen Elizabeth II, is meeting here with Jesuit Fidel, getting knighted by Jesuit Fidel. And there's an article on the Irish Times called Fidel Castro Confesses the Jesuit Ethics. You should check that out. Look at this, Fidel Castro and Andrew Bertie. There's the photo here of the puppet Queen Elizabeth's coronation chart. Okay, look at this, her carriage. Look at that. That's so. Oh man, it makes me. You know, and actually this affects a lot of people. Because you think about almost 40%. Well, definitely a huge chunk of the Western world, but I want to say 30-40% of the world are at least officially are quote unquote British subjects under the British Empire. But you'll see here that the British Empire is actually a proxy of the papacy. Okay. And actually, this is from Peter J. Doiswick's book, Roman Customs and Practices. I have this on my archive.org page. It's in double page format, but if you go on sejded.com, PDF A4 splitter, you can split PDFs for free, and if you want to get it in the single pages. He's here in 1209, Pope Innocent III. This is the Pope who slaughtered. He was Pope when the Crusades were launched against the Albigenses and the Waldenses. But here in 1209, Pope Innocent III excommunicated King John of England, and in 1212, the Pope declared the English king disposed and asked King Philip of France to invade the British Isles unless the king surrendered his kingdom to Rome and agreed to govern it as a papal fief. See, and that's why Elizabeth has the Roman Military Fasces on her coronation carriage, because she's governing the British Empire as a papal fief. But continuing. On May 15th, 1213, King John signed the. I'm going to repeat this. On May 15th, 1213, King John signed the British Empire over to the Pope of Rome. Quote is what the Doiswick quotes here. Thomas Reimer's book Fodera, Volume 1, Part 1, page 57. John, by the grace of God, King of England, Lord of Ireland, we offer and freely grant to our Lord, Pope Innocent, and to his Catholic successors, the whole kingdom of England and the whole realm of Ireland, holding these lands as a feudal subject, and we swear feudally for them, for our above-mentioned Lord, Pope Innocent. Moreover, in proof of this, our perpetual obligation and grant we will establish, excluding in all respects the Peter's pence, that the Roman Church shall receive annually 1,000 marks sterling. Yeah, there's the source Doiswick gives. Doiswick continues, Pope Innocent III also forced King John to sign the oath of fealty. Quote, I, John, by the grace of God, King of England and Lord of Ireland, from this hour forward will be faithful to the Roman Church and to my Lord, Pope Innocent, and to his successors. So help me God in these holy Gospels. May 15th in the 14th year of our reign. End quote. That was the same book here from, this is actually, Abermanhattan quotes this same book in his book, The Vatican Billions, when speaking on the, how Ireland was just signed over to Britain right after this happened, which is, has to be a coincidence though, right? So we see here, so thus, Doiswick continues, thus before Ireland was completely subdued to England, the British Empire itself lost its independence, as is the fate of all who get entangled with papal politics. Well said. Okay, but so we'll continue here with the list. Yeah, that one was shocking to me. Here's a 100 banknote in fascist Italy. See here, Roman fasci right on the center in red with the reef right around. Okay, it had the Virgin Mary on their money. How Catholic of them. This one's interesting here in Boston. This is at millions of Boston. So look at this. This is at Boston architecture. You see the Roman fasces right here on the architecture in Boston, one of the most Catholic cities in America. Their current mayor, Marty Walsh, is a Jesuit puppet who went to Boston College. Their Marty Walsh appointed Jesuit puppet Chris Evans, who went to Boston College as his police chief, who oversaw the whole Boston marathon bombing, martial law drill, psychological operation. And now Evans, the police chief that I think it's Bruce Evans, the police chief that Marty Walsh appointed, is now the head of the police and security at Jesuit Boston College. So how fitting. You see here in Boston, here millions of Bostonians and others pass under this impressive facade each year, perhaps not realizing that 111 lions' heads are viewing their progress past Filene's at the corner of Washington and Summer Street in Boston. Photographed May 17th, 1973. This facade in metal enhances the older parts of the building. Visible too are the banded gatherings of rods known as fasces. You see right here where my mouse is there. There's fasces right here is the bundle of rods, right here in the center, and also right here. You see, so the fasces, which like the lion, are symbolic of strength, dignity, leadership, and authority. The temporal authority of the Pope. This one was interesting here. This is from Somalia. I think James Bishop. George mentioned on a previous brief that a key U.S. Diplomat to Somalia in the 90s during the war there, James Bishop, went to a few Jesuit schools. I think it was Marquette. If you type James Bishop, Somalia, that'll come up. But this, I wonder if this went up while he was stationed here. You see here, this rock of a fasces is in Somalia here. This, I don't know when this went up, but I thought this was interesting that this was in Somalia. This Roman Empire military symbol is being carved. Yeah, I showed you this one at the beginning of the video. This is from the ancient Roman Empire, the Inquisitors. So you had the lictors are carrying the fasces, and they went around and demanded everyone pay respect to them. They probably threatened to chop off their heads under the threat of violence with these fasces acts if they didn't, bow down and kneel to the magistrate. Here's a propaganda postcard of Benito Mussolini in Italy, the first fascist government postcard. Propaganda postcard issued on the occasion of the appointment of Mussolini as prime minister. You see here the Roman fasci right on the center. Mussolini took himself a Jesuit priest as his confessor, Father Taci Venturi. So you see it there. Here's a Roman Republic coin from the 1840s with the Roman fascia right on the center. See, this symbolism, goes back quite some time. Here are some stock certificates in the U.S. This was really interesting here. You see a stock certificate. You see here the Roman fasci are right on the stock certificate. Are you kidding me? Look at that. This looks like an American stock certificate. Here's some other photos that they have. You can see the fasci right there. Right there. And this one you can see it a bit better. Oh, that was the one that, yeah, this right here. There's the fascia right where my mouse is, doing a horizontal. These are on United States stock certificates. This photo costs $1,000. Like, are you kidding me? Getty Images. This one's interesting here in Italy. This is the Victory Monument built during the fascist dictatorship. This is now in Bolzano, Italy. And you see they have six. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 6. Actually, there's probably 12. It looks like there's fasces on the other side too. You see here, so 12 massive fasces at this monument here in Bolzano, Italy. It still stands to this day. This one was interesting here. This was at the calendar for November 1904. Illustrates the writing of the Declaration of the Rights of Man. This would be Thomas Paine writing this. And there's a Roman fasci right on the postcard here on the left. And it was interesting. This was in the book by James Roosevelt Bailey. I put this on my archive.org page, but I'll show you this. I found that there were Jesuit priests who actually came to Thomas Paine's deathbed, the guy who wrote the Declaration of the Rights of Man. So it's interesting that this photo of a postcard of Thomas Paine has a Roman fasci on it. As you see, when Thomas Paine was on his deathbed, Bishop Fenwick, what was the first name of this Jesuit? This was a powerful bishop of New York. So you see, when Thomas Paine was on his deathbed, Bishop Fenwick wrote an account of the interview, which was published in the Catholic Magazine of Baltimore, October 1946. Okay. You see here. Okay, so here's the here. This is from the Father Jesuit Fenwick. I have in my possession a letter from Father Coleman, another Jesuit, to Mother Seton, in which he alludes to this interview. He speaks of pain as, quote, one worried in mind, afflicted in body, unwilling to suffer, and fine as given up to all horrors of despair. So Thomas Paine was visited by Jesuits on his deathbed. That comes from the source here. The History of the Catholic Church in New York by James Roosevelt Bailey. Where's the title page? Well, the title page might not be in this document. Yeah, but this comes from the History of the Catholic Church in New York by James Roosevelt Bailey. He was the older cousin of President Theodore and Franklin Roosevelt. That was published in 1853. Yeah, I think that was all of them that I got up there. But you see, this is all over the place. In plain sight and hidden in plain sight. And, you have to know what you're looking for to see this symbolism. And it shows that the Roman Empire is as strong today as it has ever been. But I think that'll be all for this one, YouTube. Peace and love, and Namnast. I'll catch you on the next one. It's getting late here.